Welcome to the podcast, the intersection of pregnancy loss, fertility, trauma, and purpose, having the conversations that should have been happening all along. Today, I have with me Shruti Trivedi. Shruti is an ICF ACC certified life coach and founder of Tulsi Heals Life Coaching. After experiencing two pregnancy losses, including the passing of her twin boys, she found herself ignoring her grief for years until seeking therapy that transformed her life. Today, she helps working mothers and professionals release guilt, prioritize self care, and embrace mental well being with compassion and courage. Thank you for joining us, Shruti.
Thank you so much, Sharna. A beautiful introduction. Thank you so much. And I'm blessed to be invited to this wonderful podcast. Truly feel honored.
Yeah, you're so welcome. And, we've had a couple of conversations now, so I feel like your message, it's so important, it's so valuable to share. I mean, essentially these stories, our stories, these conversations are they're so valuable because they're so few and far between. So I would love for you to be able to, if you want to share with us your story, and sort of what led you to where you are today.
Absolutely. So I can talk about the pregnancy losses. I have been through in total 5 pregnancies. I have 3 beautiful children. I'm blessed with that. But however, I've also had 3 losses. My first loss was right after my first daughter back in 2011. Um, it was New Year's Eve, and we were going to announce our pregnancy. I went to the doctor's office for my regular checkup at 9 weeks, and the doctor said there was no heartbeat. And you know, I just didn't know what to do. And I was sent from the radiologist office to the OBGYN, and they just told me you have to terminate the pregnancy. And I I was in the middle of like, I have a party to go to tonight. I'm going to announce my pregnancy. I couldn't fathom like what had just happened. And she said, Shruti, there is no heartbeat. We can't do anything. You have to terminate the pregnancy today. And I came back home with that pill. Um, I had my suitcases laid out to be packed and leave for the party. And I just put them aside and took the pill and went into labor. And that's how I spent my New Year's Eve 2011. The worst part was my 2-year-old daughter watching me in the restroom, um, crying and screaming in pain, and my husband just holding her tight. And he wanted to be there for me, but at the same time he had to be there for my daughter. And I can even picture it now, like I passed that red blob and my hands were shaking and shivering. How do I flush that? And I had to do it. And it was painful. And I thought, you know what, I I just started a new year, and I put myself into work. And I mean, I thought I'll just get a job, and I just didn't want it to address that anymore. I didn't talk to it about to anyone, like maybe to my mother a couple of times, but very briefly, and I avoided it. And I thought, okay, I got a job in 4 months. I started working, and I thought I'll all forget it. And then I had my second daughter. I was blessed with that. And then back in 2017, I was expecting identical twin boys, and it was a roller coaster journey since the beginning. Their first appointment, the doctor was like, they share a sac, like monoamniotic. Usually, twins need to be having their own amniotic sac, like diamniotic. Um, so that could be a complication, like they could be conjoined twins and other types of complications. But the next appointment, everything was fine. So I'm like, yay, it's gone. Then again at 7 weeks, They used to always do like baby A, baby B, and then baby A was not peeing. So they were like, okay, that could be a problem if the urinary bladder is not working. Again, a few appointments later, baby A peed, and we crossed that blocker. And then so I thought, yeah, even though, there are problems, they are making progress. And then at 18 weeks, they were diagnosed with twin to twin transfusion syndrome, where one baby receives more nutrition than the other. So I was taken to Johns Hopkins Hospital, which is one of the best hospitals in the world. They were they did the laser surgery for them, and it was 95% successful. And the doctor was very confident that everything will be fine. There was only a slight membrane tear, but he was not worried. But 2 weeks later, my water broke. And then yet again, I was told to terminate at 19 weeks. And I was like, no, I can't do this. And then the radiologist said, you know what, you can give them a chance, but if not, you can decide to terminate today. And I'm like, even if there is a 0.00001%, I want to give them a chance. So I went back home on strict bed rest, and um, unfortunately, on 23 weeks, it was my daughter's seventh birthday. She was really excited, and she knew I was sad and I was in bed rest. So she said, Mama, I'll bring balloons to your room, and we'll cut the cake in your room. So in the afternoon, she was planning everything in the living room, and by afternoon, my I developed a fever, and my husband just brought in the cake for her, and I was screaming with labor. So I was rushed to the hospital. Just give me a moment.
It's all right, take your time.
And yeah, so I delivered them on her seventh birthday, and they lived for 2 hours. Is what the doctor said. That even if you don't feel that they're alive, their heartbeat is there for 2 hours after you deliver. So I got to hold them on my chest all night, and that was, even though that night was most the most heartbreaking night, but I know it was also the most peaceful that I got to spend with them. It just meant a lot. And after that, again, I chose not to go back, like not to talk about it. I thought I had a family. The doctor recommended go for therapy. And I said, no, I have a family. I don't need therapy. And I came back home. They gave me like a big packet of grief support resources, and I literally just threw them away. And every year since then, it was like I was having panic attacks around the same dates. And I couldn't understand why, because the following year I conceived again and I had my baby boy. And I was like, now I have everything, but still it feels incomplete, and it feels so hollow. Um, and almost 5 years later, my company was giving out like complementary therapy sessions. I decided, let me talk and see. And I I think that was the best decision that I made. Um, Therapy really transformed me and all my grief to not forget, but to, kind of rewire, reframe my grief in a healthy way. And today I can speak about it. Today I can speak to women about it, grieving mothers about it. And that's become my life goal now, to advocate for mental health and to speak openly about it without guilt, without shame. So it's been a journey. Yeah.
I really want you to, I'm sorry, I really want to thank you for sharing that. Um, and the fact that you are able to step into that role as well. And also, and I think this is where we need to normalize, we can we can talk about it and it can still become emotional. We can talk about it and it can still really trigger those emotions, but that's okay. When, we're years out from our experience, it doesn't mean that you can talk about it and then all of a sudden just magically there's no emotion attached to it anymore. And I think that's where we need to share these stories that even though we are years out, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes it can bring back that grief, and that's okay. And that's completely normal. But to have the tools then to help yourself process that, help yourself move through that so that grief doesn't overwhelm you again. So I want to thank you for sharing what you did and being so vulnerable and open and raw with your experience.
Thank you so much. I think you made a great point. Like, even now I have my low moments. It's not like, I don't, but I have learned a strategy. I've learned how to address it. So if I have that low moment, like I just had a couple of minutes earlier, I let myself feel it. Even if it's 30 minutes, I feel like crying. I'll cry. And then, but at the same time, I'll not be crying all the time. I'll start reframing it to the good moments and slowly come out of it in a healthy way. And I think that is what has been transformational. Previously, what I used to do is if I felt like crying, I would just cry for 5 minutes, wipe my tears, put on heavy makeup, and then go in front of my kids, or just avoid and start listening to loud music, completely escaping it. And I think that's what has changed, like escaping it or avoiding it completely or talking about something else. Or like even with identical twins, I know I used to see identical twins everywhere after I lost them. And I used to turn off, like Harry Potter, for example. It's one of my favorite series. I can watch it, even you put it on now, I can watch it. I hated Harry Potter series for a while because every time, like the identical twin boys, Fred and George, came on the screen, I would be stunned. And I'm like, why? Then that feeling of why?
Yeah. Like why me?
Why
Why
me?
yeah, why are those twins that I'm seeing on the screen or down the street, why are they here and mine aren't? And
Yeah.
these feelings too are really valid to feel. And I think we try to push those aside as well because they're not nice or, that's and I did it. There were so many sort of dark thoughts that I had about, you know, wanting other people to feel my pain almost. And I was like, but that's not me. So I can't feel that. I've got to push that aside. I can't be that person, even though I know I'm not that person. But I was hurting. And these are the things that we need to like give ourselves the chance to witness, but also to reframe because it's completely valid that these feelings and thoughts come through, the emotions come through because of the experience. But the way that we, choose the healing through it is to witness, to allow ourselves to sit with that thought, that emotion, and help ourselves process it, help ourselves move through it. And I think that's where when you chose to do therapy, um, we you seek those tools. Those tools just don't appear in your toolkit
Yeah.
magically because we're not taught that. We're not taught how to sit with emotions. We're not taught how to process these huge life experiences because there is no rule book. And there's nothing to say that someone says, if you ever experience this in your life, this is what you do. Um, so we need to seek that support externally. We need to get that help because otherwise they become so consuming. And when we do choose to ignore them, they don't go away. They just sit under the surface until another time in your life where they're just going to come back out again.
Exactly. That happened in my case. Like I waited 11 years, right, to finally get therapy back in 22. So the first one I avoided, and then second one again, it kind of cracked me open, and but still I avoided. And then it's not like it's all gone. And the phrases like time will heal, it's partial. Time will heal only if you address it.
Mhm.
It will not automatically. So sometimes these phrases just throw me off. Like I don't just move on. I've been told so many different types of phrases like you can try again, you're young, and and it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Like at that time, maybe it may be a different time, but those are the times I think where we just need that presence
Hmm.
and just simple check-ins, no long paragraphs of advising. And that's where therapy makes a difference because family members not do not necessarily have those tools to kind of understand, and they are always biased towards the family member, right? But that therapist is completely unbiased, non-judgmental, and will give you the tools because that person is a professional and make you heal it in a very very healthy way. and
Mm.
and I think that's why I highly speak of it.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, like, yeah, I just wanted to mention the time heals as well because I keep hearing it, even from even from people in like the grief space and stuff like that. I still see it and I'm like, it really irks me because I like it, time heals only if you're proactively,
Yeah,
participating in your healing. Like it doesn't, if you're sitting idly by, and time passes, time's just passing. That's it. You have to be proactive in your healing. You have to participate. You have to move through it. And I think also the whole therapy thing, like when we then choose, okay, how do I participate in it? How do I start, proactively doing it? And it's okay to reach out for support. It's okay to know that you're not okay and
yeah,
put your hand up to say, I need someone else on the outside of me to do that. Because, like you said, family and friends might have well meaning intentions, but especially, if it might be your parents, like they probably haven't been taught the tools. So they can't really be there for you in the way that you need them to. It's okay to maybe use them as a sounding board sometimes, but being able to actually move through the healing in, like you said, a healthy way, it is to seek someone that is on the outside of you, someone that isn't connected to you or your family, um, that can be non-judgmental, that can be just that neutral person who can see things for what they are and give you the resources to move through it.
absolutely.
I remember, I think in my first therapy session, I'd written a letter of my experience. Well, not a letter, but I'd written it all down. I just needed to get it out of my head because it was so consuming. I couldn't think straight. And so I'd written everything down on just, paper. And my first therapy session, just gave her the paper. I said, this is why I'm here. I can't physically speak to it, but this is everything that I've just gone through. Um, and my first session was just me crying in the chair and her reading what I wrote. And, I think sometimes just to be seen for what you've gone through, um, it's so validating. She ended up telling me after reading just what I wrote, she's like, this is trauma. This is big. And I remember feeling throughout my whole journey that I was making it up. I was over exaggerating. I was making it out to be bigger than what it was. And then she read it and validated the enormity of it. I'm like, sometimes that's what you need. Sometimes it's just that validation of your experience as well.
Yeah, exactly my case. Like when I I mean my company was offering free sessions when I hung up on that hotline three times before finally gathering courage to make that call. I was like, what do I say in 2022? I had miscarriages like 5 years ago and then one, what, 11 years ago. And now I have three beautiful children. I have a job. I have a family. I have a house. I have almost everything what I need to support a family and a life. And then, but I'm still, I still feel about my babies, or what do I really say to the therapist? And I went with a very negative attitude towards therapy. I was like, the therapist will be like, you know what, you just want to create problems. You have everything in the world, but you just want to be like a complaint baby, or just want to whine about things you don't have. And I'm like, maybe I'll do one session and I'll just hang up and I'll never go back. I went with that attitude, to be very honest. And when my therapist heard my story, she was shocked. She was like, Shruti, you've been through so much for 11 years, you didn't address this. That's shocking. And she was full of empathy and so much warmth and inviting. And she's like, no, this needs to be addressed. You did the right thing of jumping onto this call. And that felt like a huge relief. Like, okay, you think it's a problem, right? So I'm not, again, like you're saying, I'm not making this up. Like when I'm getting those paranoid attacks, I'm like being so mean to myself. She think, what's wrong with you? Why can't you move on? Like everybody else around you is saying. And so she really made it real for me. Like, yes, this is a problem. This needs to be addressed, and your feelings are all valid. So that validation was necessary from her.
Mm.
That yes, I needed to seek the help and address it. So completely understand that.
Yeah, and I think it's that preconceived idea of how it's all going to go that we have.
Yeah.
That stops us then from showing up because like you just said, you had this idea of like she's just going to tell me that because yes, on the outside I have everything to be grateful for. I have the things that I want. I do have healthy children and I have a good life. But I've also been through so much trauma and challenges that I you physically can't show up in your life the way that you want to enjoy those things. And then we get in our head, we're like, no, what are they gonna think? Like they're just gonna tell me that I'm making it all up. Like, get out of my head, just be grateful. Um,
Mm.
and like you said, you don't want to come across as a crybaby or someone that's just whinging over something seemingly what society perceives as, a small thing in your life that you should just be able to get over and just become normal again. So you go in with this preconceived idea of how it's all going to play out. But this time it didn't stop you. This time you actually took that leap of, that you, you got the courage and you made the phone call and you got the validation. And I think that sometimes that hardest thing to make for ourselves is that step of
Yep.
going from where we are and breaking through to shifting that by seeking that support. But sometimes that is seemingly easy. Just make a phone call, just book an appointment, just speak to someone. And you're like, yeah, but that decision sometimes is the hardest one to make.
Exactly, exactly. So true. Like that one step was so tough, but after that it was no looking back. I still talk to my therapist on a monthly basis now, and it's just easy so much. it's very, very easy these days. Like I don't have to overthink. I have a problem. There are always problems in life, no matter how many. So there's always something to talk about, even if it's minor. And then she sometimes it's like a venting session, and then I'm all fine. But yeah, that first step just made it all easy.
Mm.
And but that was tough to to go for. So,
Yeah. And for myself to because the therapist that I saw was one that I had seen previously when my dad died. I was, and again, in that sense, I was very similar to your journey where I didn't process anything for about 6 years. So there was a lot there. And when I did go in my mid 20s to see her, there was a lot of unpacking that I had to do, but it was just that recognition. It's almost like this moment of like that Dutch courage. Like I've just got to do it. I can't be this way anymore, and I can't do it myself. And you just realize you sort of come to that moment of you've tried pushing it under the rug, you've tried all of the things to ignore it, and it doesn't go away. It just keeps resurfacing in different ways. And I was like, I don't want to be in this state. And I was having panic attacks as well myself. And I was like, my body is physically telling me that this can't go on. And then I ended up in after the my miscarriage, I ended up in a survival response that I didn't really even know that was happening again until a couple of years later. Um, and I reached back out to my therapist and she's like, I am no longer practicing. And I was like, damn it. So she's like, I'm on a holiday at the moment. I'm retired. And I was like, well, can you unretire and come back for me? But, it is those moments. And I think we do just need to give ourselves a bit of grace and just say, whether it is investing in a coach, whether it is investing in a program, whether it is investing in therapy, anything that can move you out of where you are, you don't have to know how it's all going to unfold. You just have to take the step because you can't predict the future, right? Like, if we could predict how the phone calls are going to go or how the sessions are going to go, like, you'd be like, yeah, sweet. But it's the fear of the unknown, the fear of, those stories that we have in our head of like, they're going to judge me. They're going to tell me this. They're going to say that I'm making it all up. But when you take the step and then you're like, oh my gosh, she didn't say any of that at all. She actually saw me and witnessed me and validated me. Like that is the potential that's sitting on the other side of that fear of
yeah,
like, do I take the step?
exactly. And that all relates to like the stigma around mental health, right? I mean, it's just we are hesitant to talk about mental health. We are, with our physical health, is very easy. I have a physician, I have a dentist, I have a neurologist, and even like I can broadcast anywhere in meetings, like I'm having a fever, I need to take a day off. But when it comes to mental health, I'm guilty myself. When I used to have my therapy sessions in the beginning, I used to tell my team, I need to run an errand. I have a bank appointment. I have a car repair. I need to step out for an hour. And but because of the stigma and over time, I realized that stigma needs to be broken, and that's where I openly talk now about mental health. And I do get rolling eyes at times about therapy, but there are so many people who who feel so comfortable that you talk about mental health so easily, and they confide in me that yeah, I have taken therapy, like, but I don't want anybody to know. And so I'm like, let's talk openly. Let's break that stigma around it. And I think that is the reason of not seeking therapy.
Hmm.
because there's so much, like from childhood, I'll be so honest, I've heard like therapy is only for crazy people, right? I mean, that's what I've heard. So and even in some movies, like especially in like Bollywood movies, I've seen like the way they are portraying is like is only for crazy and people. So it's
Hmm.
kind of, I don't want to be. I don't want to.
I'm not that bad. Like, I'm not a psychopath. I don't have like a split personality or,
So you're always hesitant. Oh, maybe not. Let's not go talk about it. Let's do it secretly if you have to, and that's where, or don't take it at all. We'll manage ourselves.
Mm,
So I think once that stigma is broken, I think, and we normalize just talking about it openly, and that's my eventual goal. Like, even in offices, we can, if we can say, like, today I'm just feeling low, I'm stressed out about, you don't have to mention any details, but I need to take a day off for that. I think if we can normalize to that point and need to treat mental health and physical health the same way, because they are equally important.
mm.
We and we don't give them equal importance for sure. I think then things will definitely be different the way we approach mental health, and then we seek therapy openly. So I think that's definitely necessary.
Yeah. And we're not a separate entity. Like, our body is a whole. So our mental health, our physical health, our emotional health, our spiritual health, it all speaks to each other. Like, you're not
Yep.
just a brain, you're not just a heart and or organs or a leg or an arm. You are a whole being that is constantly communicating. And when we dismiss parts, it affects other parts. So you can't just work on physical health and ignore your mental health and expect to be okay when your mental health is suffering. So if your mental health is suffering, your physical health will suffer, and vice versa. If your physical health is suffering, your mental health, and you can't just be a brain and, be organs. Like, that's not how our body works. So when you understand that every single part of us is constantly communicating with other parts, to seek support for mental health is just, like you said, is just as important as seeking help from the doctor or seeking or going to, holistic, acupuncture and all of that. Like, our physical body and our brain and everything, they're not separate. They're only separated by like location in our body. That's it. It's all, but
Yep.
they're all connected. And to be physically healthy and whole, it means that we do have to we have to make a conscious choice to work on all of these parts. And your mental health is absolutely 100% just as important as your physical health. But like you said, there's so
So
much more, yeah, emphasis put on the physical.
yeah, we brush our teeth. Like this is the example I give everywhere. Like we brush our teeth daily, right? No matter what, to cleanse, because our mouth stinks, right? And we brush our teeth twice a day. What about all the toxicity and the negative thoughts that accumulate in our head daily? Do we need mental cleansing daily?
Yeah.
And are we doing it? And we're not. I mean, it could be as simple as a 5-minute meditation, or just going on a walk, or journaling, kind of venting out all the thoughts on a piece of paper, or venting out to a friend. But that's not happening. We ruminate on those thoughts. We take care of our physical health very easily, but when it comes to mental health, we just ruminate and don't cleanse them. And that's where it all gets toxic, to a point where a term that I've coined is called mental tumor. And then we decide to address. So yeah, mine was kind of towards that. I don't know if that's the right term today, but I felt like I had to address it only after I I went through like so much. pain, like it's not going away and I need help. I think I need help, or I don't know if I need help, but let me try. So I decided to go for therapy. So I think that's needed. They are both physical health and mental health are interdependent on each other. And until it starts sometimes it's until it starts showing on our physical health, we don't address
Mm.
the mental health. So it definitely needs to be cleansed on a daily basis. That would be, I think, the best way. Like
Yeah.
do your brush your teeth and then also have a mindfulness practice, have a quick mental cleansing in whatever form you want.
Mm.
But to be as a daily routine, no matter what. And that's why the this example just makes sense. Um,
Yeah. And you can picture it, right? Like you can picture like a mental tumor, like you can picture like what's happening. So it's whether or not it's the right term, it shows the emphasis on like what like
yeah,
it has the capacity to do. Um, and I think that because there's so much stigma around mental health, and then on top of that, there's so much stigma around pregnancy loss that you're like, I shouldn't be feeling these feelings. I shouldn't be thinking these thoughts. I shouldn't have any mental health issues. Like that it just shouldn't be there because I'm just told to get over it. I'm just told I'm not maybe the medical system didn't see them as a big deal. Maybe the people around them don't see it as a big deal. So then you're like, well, can I ended up getting depression. I'm like, can I get depression from that? Like, was that making it up? Like, is that a weakness that I just sort of slipped down this path? And, I was diagnosed with depression and high functioning anxiety. So I was like completely unable to be in the present moment at all. Like, my body just would freak out. Um, so there's so many layers to that. And then but like we've said, there is so much importance though to just say, and I think like you said, it's shifting even the wording that we're saying is like, how can I try that? Or becoming curious about that thing as opposed to completely shutting it off and thinking of it as like as sort of a dead end type thing. Like maybe I could try counseling. How could that work for me? Maybe I could try this, you know, program. How could that work? And becoming curious as opposed to completely shutting it down.
no, absolutely. And with pregnancy loss, I think grief in general, we're all going to experience grief. We're going to lose our near and dear ones eventually. I know we all have our own end dates, is how I call it. And but in terms of pregnancy loss, I think what in my experience, it doesn't even is considered as a loss
Yeah,
because they were at times the way I have been told is they were not even humans.
they weren't really there, right? Like, yeah,
They're
yeah,
not
they
there.
weren't seen as there.
Yeah, like the red blob at
Yeah,
9 weeks that it's not a human.
yeah,
Like my twins, even though they were born, they were not fully developed. So they're not, and that's what is most traumatic to me. Like, it's not even considered at some point. And I'm like, no, they were live babies. They're still my babies. And no matter at what age or what, it still counts. And
yeah,
I think my it just gets bigger for pregnancy loss because it's like it's okay, don't just move on, it's okay, don't stress about it. If you just they were not really babies. No, they were my babies.
hmm,
so so it gets tougher to um to even talk about it, and and it just gets messy.
yeah. I
And that
remember. Mm. Yeah, that was a similar experience for me too. Was because we lost, I had the miscarriage at 7 weeks. And that's when you start questioning it. Like, because no one else wants to validate their existence. Should I be feeling this way? Should it be
Mhm.
big? Should I have these thoughts? Should I even go? Should I be having anxiety? Should I be experiencing depression? Like, and there's so much that comes with that. Or do I need mental health support? Because should I be even feeling this way? But physically, what's happening is your body, as soon as you fell pregnant, your brain chemistry changes, your physical chemistry changes to anticipate the baby. So even though it was 7 weeks, 9 weeks, 20 weeks, full term, or you gave birth, your body has that moment that it became a viable pregnancy, your body shifted
Yeah.
chemically, physiologically, neurobiologically, like it shifted. So and that's what's not validated, like in society. That's what's not shown because they're like, I didn't see a baby. You didn't have a belly and it's so hard then to try and bring yourself around without that validation because you're like, then why do I feel this way? Why do I feel so different?
I mean, I know after I delivered my boys, I came back home and I the doctor had given me a band, like a bandage kind of a band. And I didn't know why. A day later, almost on the same day or the day later, I started producing milk.
Mm,
And then the doctor said I had to tie that on my breast, like a tightly on my breast to stop the milk production. And so my body was doing
yeah,
what it's supposed to do.
it was
And
preparing.
yeah, it was preparing. And, I there were moments when I thought, you know what, I'll just wake up from this dream and I'll see my big belly and my twins will be inside of me. But that never happened. But like you're saying, the body prepares.
Yeah,
So my body was doing exactly the right thing, was producing milk for my babies. And for that one entire week, I had to stop that. And I think milk production has always been a blessing for me for all my babies. Like, I enjoy feeding them and that one time was so traumatic for me. I used to sit like a robot and I had my mother tying that band over me and I'm like, I had to stop this. And yeah, so the body does what it's supposed to do, changes.
absolutely. It goes into postpartum too, and you're still expected to show up as you did before it all happened.
Mm.
But this is what no one talks about. This is the things, the reality of the loss that your body goes into that then is hidden because we're like, also, no one sort of prepares you for it. Like, this
Yeah.
is the potential of what could happen. But then it does happen and there's no support because then you're like, well, this is happening, but you can't go to a mother's group. You can't go, you don't have a midwife coming and checking in on you like you do when you've got a baby at home. There's no one coming in to check on you. You don't get that support that you need, that your body needs, but it has gone through that almost like the same transitions. And society doesn't see that because they're like, it's all happening behind closed doors. And very likely the women that are experiencing it aren't talking about it because it's either still too painful or there's that silence around their story that they feel like they can't talk about it. They haven't found someone safe to talk to about it. Um, And it just remains this societal thing that, you don't see the baby on the outside. So why are you grieving? Why is it still so hard for you to just not function like a normal human?
Yeah. When I started sharing my story with some friends, and I didn't know they had experienced pregnancy loss. And I knew them for more than 10 years. And I'm like, how do I not know about this? And I was like, no, I've not shared it with anyone. So
Yeah.
stories are hidden, even though you might know.
Yeah.
My mother told stories about my own family that I didn't know. Some of my aunts and my grandmother, and I'm like, really, they went through losses. I had no idea.
Hmm.
So they're all hidden stories, and people just, you know, want to kind of to say move on or be strong. Another thing is like be strong in front of kids. Like when I came back from the hospital, it's like you cannot cry. Just be strong for your two girls. And and I had to do that, like put up a strong face, put up a mask on, and be strong for them, smiling. And after sought therapy, my therapist told me the opposite.
Mm.
It's okay to be vulnerable in front of your kids. I'm like, this is the complete opposite of what the other people are telling me. She's like, they need to see that you're human, not a super mom or some person who doesn't cry. It's okay to cry in front of your kids. It's okay to be vulnerable in front of them. And since then, when I've been doing this in front of my kids, they just give me a good hug and a big hug, and I think they see me more as a human than as the tags that I have got, like super mom, rock solid mom. Those I don't need those tags. I just need sometimes a tag of a human. Like I feel like crying. I feel vulnerable right now. And I think that has really kind of been transformational for me
Yeah.
to uh, show my kids my emotions. And so I think I'm also passing on to them, like when they grow up to be moms, they don't have that pressure that my mother-in-law cried in front of me, so I need to be that same way. So I think it's also kind of passing that to them. And I think that changed me too when my therapist told me differently. And I'm like, yeah, that makes so much sense. What I'm passing to my kids, that, just don't cry in front of your own kids then.
Yeah.
Everything shifted for me, and those tiny little changes have really changed me as a person, and I'm able to be open now. I'm able to talk about it now. I'm able to be emotional, and at the same time, just talk openly without any stigma. I really don't care about what people think. If there are like 20 people thinking you talk about therapy, there are, I know, 200 people thinking thank you for sharing your story. So I would value those other people rather than the people who want to think they can think whatever they want. And
Hmm.
I'll respect their priorities and their decisions in life, but I will value the ones that really invite me and say that, okay, thanks for sharing, and we have our own stories to share.
Yeah. I love that. And yeah, I could keep talking to you for so long. And I know we've been talking for a while now. So, do you want to share where people can find you? Um, and maybe open up the conversation with you, talk to you about what you do.
Absolutely. So, my business, Tulsi Heals Life Coaching, is again named after my twin boys. Tulsi is a holy Indian basil plant that we pray to in Hindu culture, and the logo that you see, it represents the two leaves represents my boys, and that's why it makes it very meaningful. I have been planting Tulsi plants in identical twin pots, in identical pots for a few years now, and it just makes that connection stronger. Um, I got certified as a life coach, and I think it's been like with my prior experience to working in IT, I think shifting to life coaching has given me just that inner calling of like this is what I really want to do in life. And I think my goal is to share stories like these, just normalize the conversations. So for working professionals and mothers who are still drowned in like self-guilt, or they're not able to share stories like these, that's the space I want to create, and I want to help people just create a better version of themselves. So definitely they can find me on social media. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and they can connect with me or even book some time with me. I have the links in my bio and my social media platforms to just even have a simple session. It's a complimentary session. They can join and just talk and see if there are any strategies that I can help them and take it from there.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful, and I'll make sure that everything's linked in the show notes as well, so that you're only a click away for them. So if they do want to see what you're all about or connect with you, then definitely check the show notes to connect with Shruti. Um, thank you so much for being here, for sharing, like I said, your story so openly and vulnerably. Um, and I do encourage women to start becoming curious about how they can support themselves through their mental health. And if you do want to open up that conversation, you can reach out to her. Is there anything else that you wanted to leave the listeners with, Shruti, before we wrap up?
I think my tagline is self-care isn't being selfish. And I think that's what I want to focus on because that ripples to every area, like even seeking therapy and take care of yourself before taking care of others. And I think self-care is often confused with being selfish. So that's my tagline. I go by that. And I think since I've started taking care of myself, I've seen experience transformation. So that's what I will advocate and teach other people how to focus on self-care and self-love.
Yeah, no, it's also amazing. And yeah, that is actually something that's really important because, again, with conditioning, we're taught that, you can't focus on yourself, you can't do things for yourself, or that self-care has to be this elaborate thing. But it doesn't. It can be simple little things. It could be even just saying yes to your needs in that moment, whatever they are, acknowledging that, and then going, okay, what's my next best step? What is the next step that I need to do to make this my reality, start bringing that, sense of whatever that self-care is that you need into your life right now. Um, and yeah, finding places where we can have these conversations and feel seen and witnessed and validated is a form of self-care. So
So
yeah, no, I really truly appreciate everything that you've shared today. And I could have gone into so much more that you were talking about, but I know that we would have been here for like hours more. Um, so I appreciate you. I appreciate your time and just thank you again for being here.
thank you so much, Sharna. It's been a pleasure talking to you and truly, truly feel honored. So thank you so much for inviting me.
You're so welcome. Thank you to all that have listened in. If this episode was valuable to you, I invite you to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, and I look forward to supporting you on the next episode.